Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic, photographing the land of fire and ice, presented by NatHab Expedition Leader Eddy Savage. I'm your host, Rob Mess. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Eddy, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Rob, and hello, everybody. It's great to see you out here this afternoon. I'm very excited to talk to you about the Ultimate Iceland Photo Expedition and everything that we go through on basically the ultimate tour in the fire and ice. This expedition, today I'm presenting from my home on Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada, and yeah, the basically what we're going to go through today, folks, I'm going to give you some very trip specific advice directly from me. I'll be doing two of these expeditions this year, and my colleague Daniel will be doing one other one. So I'm going to give you some really specific advice about preparing yourselves for an Iceland photo trip, as well as some packing tips so that you're dialed in. And then we're going to go through the itinerary for this year, some of the sites we're expecting to see, and kind of the key focus points, and a little bit of what we might call like a shot list, places that we're going to try to position ourselves to give ourselves the best opportunity for some spectacular photography. And then I'll leave a little bit of time, of course, at the end for your questions. So please feel free to put those in as I'm chatting. But basically, an introduction to this photo expedition is really an in-depth photographic exploration of Iceland. We're going to be taking ample time. So the total length of the trip is 13 days, and it's really focusing in on key destinations, key subjects, to give ourselves a good amount of time to photograph each of these subjects. So it's extremely diverse throughout. We'll be using boats, 4x4s, planes. I think I accidentally wrote helicopters in there, but it's boats, 4x4s, and planes, as well as some zodiacs to get some of the harder to access areas. As well, Iceland is a very popular place for not only photographers, but for visitors from around the world. It's a global destination because of its natural beauty, and in a lot of places ease to travel. So we get off the beaten path and we travel in a small group and basically work around some of those larger groups that are moving through to find our slices of wilderness and go to places that those groups are just not going. And so that brings me to kind of finding the best light and a different schedule than the usual trip. A lot of trips, sometimes you'll start nice and early, you'll head out at 7, and then you'll be done your day kind of by 6 or 7 p.m. In Iceland, that doesn't really work so much. We really want to play to our strengths by finding light. Sunset is, usually around 11:30 to 12:30, if it even sets, and it's basically always dusk, or dawn through the middle of the night, because of how far north Iceland is. And so every day, our local guide and myself will be basically assessing the weather and the light, and kind of working around that to make sure we're going to the best spots for the best opportunities each day. And when it comes to timing and finding that best light, that often means that we are staying out later. I like to say, one of my favorite time to be out. And we can't do it on every single day. And some days it just won't make sense if it's just, cloudy and pouring rain, or something like that, which is a possibility. But we will be basically starting later, usually, between 9 and 10:30 in the morning, doing a couple things before lunch, and then really focusing in on our afternoon, and then having dinner, and then going out after dinner. And kind of that window of time from 8 o'clock till 11 p.m. or so, is really when light starts to get low, it starts to change, and it really brings out some spectacular opportunities for interesting light on our landscape subjects. But each day is a little bit different. The schedule is going to be a little bit different each day. But basically, we're really working to, well, we're going to be working the whole trip, basically kind of having a lot of fluctuation within our schedule to make sure we are out there at the right time in the right place. And some of the really popular spots, where, you know, if you went there at 2 in the afternoon, there might be hundreds and hundreds of people visiting. You go out after dinner and there'll be a dozen people. So we'll take advantage of that where possible. Excuse me. Now, um, let's talk about the weather. So the weather is probably the only constant on this trip. It's the thing that we really need to be watching and thinking about, and we're not afraid of it. Um, we embrace it, and I actually, I really like the clouds, and I really like kind of the changing weather that is so constant in Iceland, because of how it starts to turn out in my pictures. Um, but some things we're definitely going to experience will be rain at some point. Something we'll definitely experience is going to be, you know, cloud or fog. We'll probably, actually, no, we'll definitely have wind, um, and all those kinds of things. You know, this is Iceland is an island situated in the middle of the North Atlantic. Um, there's very little cover. There's very little place to hide from wind and rain and that kind of stuff. There's not a lot of trees. There are trees around, but there's not a lot of trees that grow in Iceland. So even the wind, if it decides that it's going 25 miles an hour, there's nothing to slow it down and nowhere to hide from it. And so, with that being said, the weather, as I mentioned, is very interesting. It provides some really dramatic uh, photography opportunities. But one of the best ways that you can prepare yourself for the trip is by making sure that you've got some solid gear to take with you. You know, like, if you have a rain jacket that's falling apart and you've had it for 20 years, this is not the trip to bring that rain jacket on. You want to make sure that your rain jacket, your rain pants, and your boots are waterproof. You want to make sure that, you know, something that I do is, you know, like I'll take my rain jacket, for example, and I'll have a look at it, make sure the seam tape is, or the seams are all in order. And I might even just put it on and stand under the shower with it, just to make sure that there's not like a massive seepage of water coming through. Because if your rain gear isn't holding up, it's also your windbreaker. um, it can make things a little bit more uncomfortable for you. So your outer layer, your rain jacket, your rain pants, and some good waterproof footwear, hiking shoes, hiking boots. Um, those are super important for this trip. And I chose this picture on this slide specifically for that because this is a super Jeep. It's one of the vehicles that will be, maybe not this exact one, but it looks similar to one of the vehicles we'll be taking into the Highlands, to go off the beaten track. But these three folks here, these are Icelanders. Ragna is in the middle. Ragna is uh, one of our drivers, and I've worked with her, drivers and local guide, and she's phenomenal, and I've worked with her now for many years. But let's get a little bit closer here, and this is how Icelanders um, prepare themselves for this trip. You can see that Ragna is wearing a fantastic uh, rain jacket, very waterproof. You can see that all three Icelanders are wearing sturdy footwear that lace up and are hiking shoes or boots. Hiking boots are better. There's a lot of, like, it doesn't matter, you know, how nice the trail is. Iceland, it's made up of volcanic rock, and the trails, you know, there's some that are great, and there's some that have loose gravel. There's some that have, you know, uneven terrain and that kind of thing. And so you want to make sure you've got shoes that fit your feet and are waterproof. And then you see there, Inko is in the orange there. He's also got a nice warm sweater. So that brings me to layers. You know, my typical kind of dress for this trip is, I've got my hiking pants on, I've got my wool socks, I've got my hiking boots, I've got my hiking pants on. I've got a base layer, which is usually I'm wearing like a light merino base layer, and then I've got a fleece vest that I often wear, and then I also have either a down jacket or a fleece sweater to put on over top of that, and then I have my rain jacket, and then I've got a warm hat, whether it's kind of like just a regular old ski cap or toque, or one of our NatHab hats. That works well. But super, super important to have that gear. And so what to pack, my advice, all of the information I just shared with you is in the pre-departure briefing under the packing list. And good rain gear is a must. And your walking and hiking footwear, good, sturdy, lace-up shoes, boots that are going to keep your feet nice and stable on uneven terrain and gravel is really important. Warm layers. So like I said, I have like a merino wool base layer, a fleece vest, and then a down jacket, and then a rain jacket, and that does it for me. I also on some of our either kind of water excursions or windier excursions where your hands might be exposed to the elements, it's nice to have a warm pair of gloves, or at least like a thin kind of glove liner or something like that that you can throw on. And then of course we're going to want sunglasses, because definitely get we'll definitely get sun at some point, or at least we hope we'll get sun at some point. But all of the best advice and kind of the most detailed list is in the pre-departure briefing. So be sure you check that out, and make sure you've got the items on that list. Now, when it comes to arrival details, folks, this trip kind of gets going pretty quick. So you're going to arrive in the international airport to Reykjavik, which is Keflavik. It's about a 1-hour drive from our Reykjavik hotel. When you exit through from the baggage claim into basically the exit zone of the airport, you will see there should be somebody standing there with a NatHab sign, or it might be on a phone, a NatHab logo on a phone or a tablet, and they'll be looking for you, and you should be looking for them, and just make sure you stick around looking for them. And if you've got NatHab logos on you, that also helps, because they're going to be looking for those logos, whether it's on a hat or on a luggage tag on your backpack or something like that. It'll make it easier for you all to connect in the busy Keflavik airport. Now, when it comes to food on this trip, we're going to get into some camera equipment stuff here, but food on this trip, something to expect is there'll be, a lot of repetition, in particular when we get into the more remote areas, kind of when we're off the ring road, the main ring road, or when we are, even some of the major restaurants. It's very good. There's a lot of European-inspired cuisines, but some of the staples in Iceland are going to be fish, lamb, and soups, which are often lamb soups or fish soups. And then it can be harder to find chicken and beef, but we strive for variety wherever we're going as far as meal times. And if there's not something one day, it'll probably be available the next day. So just some flexibility with our food options, and it depends on where we are on the trip. But many of our food stops or our restaurants that we visit, it might be something like, well, we want to make sure that we're close to this mountain for the evening light, and so we're going to go to this restaurant because it's a half hour away from that mountain, versus maybe something that had more options that's an hour and a half away from that mountain we want to be at. So we make decisions like that so that we're kind of in the right spot at the right time. And in my experience, the food throughout the country is spectacular. Yeah, we'll take it day by day. As far as transportation, how we're getting around, this is this is one of the vehicles that we'll be using. It's a nice, it won't necessarily look exactly like this or have the same color. Um, but we have, these Mercedes vans that have 16 seats, and then our group sizes are maximum is 9. Everyone gets a window seat, lots of extra space inside for our camera bags. Tripod can go in the upper storage compartment there. And basically not too big to hinder our travel down some of the narrower, more remote roads, and not too small that we're uncomfortable in that. And then I think there's one trip that's in a slightly smaller vehicle as well, but it's got that trip has less people. So that's our transportation. It basically gets us where we need to be, and in a nice amount of comfort as well. So moving on from transportation, I want to talk to you about my photography gear. So this is really huge, because we're a lot of the kind of recommendations for what equipment to pack is in the pre-departure briefing. And this trip, we're going to be focused heavily on landscape photography, and the many diverse landscapes that is Iceland. We'll be working, on the ocean. We'll be working on land. We'll be working on lagoons, bodies of water. We'll be photographing glaciers and ice, and dormant volcanoes, recent lava flows, mosses, lichens, all this kind of stuff. And so, in my experience, this is now, my 5th year, I think, going back for these ones, 4th or 5th year going back. I've kind of honed in my camera equipment to be exactly this. So I have a sturdy camera harness and strap, and something to consider is having a nice comfortable strap, or a nice comfortable camera harness to take the weight of the camera, and take it out of your hands and make it nice and secure to carry. It goes a long way. In particular, if we're making multiple stops, or spending 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours in one location over the course of our 13-day expedition, it'll just make that camera not feel so heavy by the end of the trip, having a good camera harness or strap. As well, having a backpack with a pack cover. So that's, if we need to go for a walk for half an hour or 45 minutes, and it's light rain or something like that, enough to, or it's heavy rain. Usually we won't do too much if it's really pouring rain to preserve our equipment. But you're going to want to have a nice backpack that you can feel comfortable will keep your equipment dry and safe. And so I have a backpack that has, it's like nice and hardy, and can handle being dropped onto, or placed down onto gravel or the ground, no problem. It's not going to tear or rip. And then I have a pack cover which is waterproof and ensures that it stays dry. And then I'm going to be bringing my Nikon Z8 full frame mirrorless camera. You don't necessarily need to have that specific type of camera to come on this trip. That's just what I have. And then I'm bringing an ultra wide lens, which is my Viltrox 16mm f1.8, and that's going to be for specific, very wide landscape photography, in particular around some of the waterfalls, and anywhere where I just want to have just a massive field of view. It's going to be probably my number 3 lens, so I won't use it very often. It'll just be very specific photos that I want to get throughout the trip. My most popular lens, my most useful lens, is going to be the 24 to 120. This basically, it's like my ultimate travel lens. It does everything from wide enough to do some significant landscape stuff, and also telephoto enough to get a little bit creative with some telephoto landscape photography. So I like the versatility of it. I like that it's pretty small, so it just kind of always lives on my camera harness, and that kind of thing. The next lens that I'm going to bring is my 100 to 400, and that is going to be primarily for like bird photography, potential for whale photography, puffins, definitely any kind of wildlife or distant thing. And I'll also throw it on if I want to do some telephoto landscape shots as well. So those are the three lenses that I'm bringing, and I'm also bringing a 1.4 times teleconverter. And so that is, so if I really, I just wish I had a little bit extra reach. It's nice and small and compact, weighs a quarter of a pound. I can throw that on and get a little bit extra reach with my 100 to 400. As well, I'll be bringing a tripod. So I have this carbon fiber Manfrotto tripod, and I'm going to be using that for all kinds of good stuff. So I'll be using that for waterfall photography if I want to get the silky water effect. I'll also use that potentially close to the ocean, or close to bodies of water, where by slowing down my shutter speed, I'll keep the camera on the tripod, slow down my shutter speed, and I can get like a nice silky smooth kind of ocean effect, or crashing waves like at Diamond Beach, where you have the kind of froth in the waves crashing over the beach on the black sand, with chunks of ice scattered all around. It creates some really dramatic effects, and I'll show you a few of those photos throughout the presentation. And then, yeah, so the tripod is really spectacular for that. And then also if we're dealing with some low light situations, but we still want to do some landscape stuff, that's really nice. And then I will also be bringing polarizer and neutral density filters. So the polarizer, basically what that one does is it can cut glare from water, and it helps to enrich the contrast and deepen the kind of the depth of color in a photo if the polarizer is used properly. So I'm using a circular polarizer. And then I've also got several neutral density filters, which I'll use either in conjunction with the polarizer or separately, to help slow down my shutter speed. So if I want to really, take some time so I can slow the water down and get the silky water effects, I'll throw on a neutral density filter, because if it's, we're shooting at 5 in the afternoon, and it's nice and bright, you'll need a neutral density filter to be able to slow your shutter speed down. And then my secret weapon on this one is the microfiber towel. So I can't tell you how many times, we stop somewhere for like a half hour or 45 minutes to take some pictures, and it doesn't necessarily rain very heavily, but it drizzles a little bit. And there's some water on my camera, and I don't really want to just let the water sit on my camera, but I also don't want to use one of my little lens cloths to clean that off. And so I bring a little microfiber towel that's like 2 feet by 3 feet, and it just lives in one of the cargo pockets on my pants. And if it starts raining, I can even, without a rain cover, I can just throw that right on top of my camera. It'll protect it. Or if I get some water droplets on my camera itself, or even on the lens, it's fine enough to tidy that up so that there's not water sitting on my equipment. And then lastly, throughout the trip, I will be backing up my photos, and I'll be backing up my photos, and I'll be doing some editing and stuff like that where we have time, and I may chat with you folks about some post-processing and stuff like that. So I'm going to have my laptop as well, and associated accessories for that. And now, just as a reminder, before I go to the trip overview and really get into it, this photography gear, this is what I've got. This is my kit. You don't necessarily need all of this. Everyone kind of is at a different place in their photography journey. But this is what I know works for me, and so I wanted to share that with you. And I always refer back to our pre-departure briefing, because in there is a fantastic list of photography equipment that makes sense for this expedition. So I'll leave this list with you, and I'll leave that pre-departure briefing list with you, and you can make the decision about what works the best. All right, so now let's dive into the trip overview. So this trip, as I mentioned, we're trying to focus in on some really key photography locations in Iceland. And let's get started. So you'll see this is a map of Iceland. The first star there, that yellow star, is in Reykjavik, where we start this whole adventure. And that first day, day one of the trip, we're going to have a welcome dinner in Reykjavik. Some people will be arriving in the morning, and then we'll have a welcome dinner in the evening. We'll do a presentation, get to know each other a little bit, and get prepared for our next day. The next day, we're going to head into Thingvellir National Park, as well as to Stroker, Geyser, Gullfoss, and a geothermal area, as well as Broarofoss. We've got a number of things we're going to tick off here, but Thingvellir National Park, it includes this beautiful, beautiful lake, geothermal areas near Stroker, Geyser, Broarofoss, this incredible wide kind of cascading river, super cool, with kind of like this a glacial hint to the water, giving it kind of a blue hue. And then we'll go to Gullfoss, and the name of the game on this day is we're going to be, going to many of these spots later in the day, in particular Gullfoss after dinner, where it's kind of one of the main stops on the Golden Circle route. And so in the middle of the day, there can be hundreds, if not thousands, of people visiting, but we'll go there and there'll just be a few people hanging around. And the light is quite nice for especially if the sun's out for our pictures. So that's our first day on the road, or day two. From there, we're going to continue east, and we're going to head up into Fjalabak South area there, where you can see kind of the two stars. We'll be in Fjalabak South. We've got a few kind of interesting spots to check out, but this is the Highlands, and we're getting into the land of kind of the like golden, rich green mosses, yellowy mosses, lichens, as well as Malafell, this green mountain here, which is surrounded by kind of this black sand expanse. There's a glacier in the background, and it is just some of the most spectacular scenery, spectacular kind of highland scenery, with the contrasting ice and black sand and braided riverbeds and green gold mountains and all that kind of stuff. So it's really special. We've got a 4x4 that we'll be taking up there for the whole day. We'll be doing, kind of picnics in the field to get through the day, and then coming back late. But basically the idea being we'll be up there so we can get some lower evening light while we're exploring. It is definitely a photographer's playground up there. So after we'll basically spend our full day up there, and then moving on to day 4, we are going to enter Central South Coast. Now, a lot of very well-known sites are in the Central South Coast. We'll be reaching a town called Vik, and Vik is a main turnaround spot for day trippers from Reykjavik. So people who are only coming to Iceland for 3 or 4 days may do like a full day trip from Reykjavik and make really quick stops at a whole bunch of these places. And so it'll be a little bit busier, but that doesn't mean it's not worth it. It is absolutely stunning and gorgeous. And so we're going to be going to Skogafoss, this beautiful, very famous waterfall. We'll be stopping at Dyrhólaey, looking for puffins, which may or may not be around, but puffins will be in Iceland. It's just this location in particular. They may or may not be around. They'll probably be flying around if they're not sitting on the grasses and in front of their burrows nearby. We'll have some spectacular viewpoints looking out towards the Reynisdrangar rocks there on the top right, and the Reynisfjara beach. Some really lovely photography subjects here, as well as this is Cavernufoss, which is a beautiful little walk that we'll do as well near Skogafoss. And then basically that day, after hitting up a whole bunch of different very scenic, beautiful South Coast sites. Um, Doing everything from puffin photography to waterfall photography. We're going to finish the day over towards Skaftafell and Jökulsárlón and the Vatnajökull ice cap. Now, we're going to be spending 3 nights in this area, I believe 2 full days, and that's because there's just a ton of stuff to see and do, and we also want to have multiple opportunities to do each of these things. So the photo that you see on the screen there, this is from our 1-hour flight over the braided riverbeds near Skaftafell, and so we charter this flight. We'll go up there. Everyone will basically have a window seat there in the flight and be able to shoot braided riverbeds from well, we can control the altitude, but typically around 1,000 feet, which is just so spectacular. While we're in the area, we also have a 3-hour zodiac in a glacial lagoon. Oh, here, this is from the flight. You can see the glacier down below, all the patterns in the glaciers. So cool. More from the flight. More from the flight. It's really, really beautiful. And then, yeah, so we're going to spend some time at the glacial lagoons, and we have this is, from Vatnajökull in this region. You have some of the largest glacial tongues flowing down from this major ice cap, the largest on Iceland. It's about 10% of the entire landmass of Iceland is this one ice cap or ice sheet. And it has multiple glacial outlets, glacial tongues that flow down into these lagoons. The lagoons are, hundreds of feet deep, where the ice has basically pushed the soil and sediment and debris away, and constantly, as the river of ice, the glacier flows down into the lagoons, chunks of it are breaking off. And so we're going to jump into Zodiac, get some nice low to the water close-up shots, as is close enough to still be very safe about everything, of course, around icebergs and things, and the ice sheet, but basically have kind of this opportunity to do some really cool photography close to very freshly fallen, calved icebergs. So we'll do that one of the days, get some of that fresh blue ice that's just rolled up and fallen off the ice sheet itself. And then we're going to do some land-based photography as well in that area, looking for a few kind of key access points to, this is Jökulsárlón, and then we'll also go to Fjöllsárlón Glacial Lagoon and get a couple of different perspectives. And then this is Diamond Beach. And so Diamond Beach, this is a fairly processed photo of mine. I really wanted to emphasize the blue that was just visible in the ice. But it's a very cool opportunity to kind of play with shutter speeds and light and ice, and capture kind of this otherworldly view of contrast between the ice and the white frothy waters and the black sand beach. Here's a photographer taking advantage of that there with the bluish ice and the big chunks of ice that wash up on the beach. So really, really cool spot. And our goal, our hotels are going to be quite close to this location. So our goal is to go do stuff during the day, and then hopefully we'll make it back here for a couple of evenings to spend some time photographing and honing our craft at Diamond Beach and Jökulsárlón. And then after we finished up in that area, oh yeah, and we've also got a hike and some up a beautiful kind of glacial river carved canyon that we'll do in this area as well. But moving on from that, we are going to continue to the east, and we're going to spend one night in Hof to basically position ourselves to photograph this extraordinary mountain range here. So this is called Vestrahorn on the Stockness Peninsula, and basically the whole region. Once we leave those glacial lagoons and we head out into East Iceland, we're heading into a very old part of Iceland, kind of geologically speaking. A lot of the rock around here is over 8 million years old. It's some of the first volcanic eruptions, up to about 14 million years old. First volcanic eruptions that laid basically lava flow that hardened above the ocean surface. And so we get into some very old parts of Iceland. Something really fascinating about Vestrahorn is you can see on the mountain there's all kinds of different colors and shapes of rock, but it's made of gabbro, and gabbro basically forms kind of underneath the Earth's crust from lava intrusion, and then it's very strong kind of rock formation, and as everything erodes around from it, it maintains a really jagged and extreme shape. And so this mountain range is kind of like this really jagged and extreme shape that you don't get to see in very many other places around Iceland, and this range is specific. Another benefit is in front of it, there's basically this tidal lagoon where you can get reflections, you can get water flowing in and filling in the lagoon at the base of it, giving you some really beautiful reflections of this mountain range. And so our goal is to have a couple of opportunities here, maybe one in the evening, one in the morning, but it really, we don't want to just drive through here and hope that the weather's good enough to see this mountain. We'd like to give ourselves, the 24 hours for weather to change, and for if it's covered in fog one day, maybe it'll clear up by that afternoon or that evening. And there's lots and lots of other places to explore and photograph around there. So Vestrahorn is one. This is an old farm ruin, and you can see there's some Icelandic horses with the scenery there, and a little creek. Some viewpoints around, kind of looking back towards Vatnajökull. And then this is Estrahorn. So this is another gabbro rock mountain, which is several, I think probably about 20 miles away, 15 miles away from Vestrahorn. But this is a shot of Estrahorn, is another gabbro rock intrusion. Super dramatic, super beautiful scenery, and we'll have lots of time to photograph both those places. And then once we have spent our night in the Hof area photographing those two locations, we're going to continue further east along kind of and getting into what are called the East Fjords. So again, this is old Iceland, 10 to 14 million year old rock, and a lot of the valleys that we're going to be getting into now are going to be glacially carved valleys. So where there used to be glacial outlet from ancient ice caps during the last ice age, for example. And the terrain really starts to change. So we'll make some photographic stops along the way. There's lots of black sand beach and that kind of stuff. But then we start to get into this more kind of like stratified layers of basalt, mountain ranges, and big, wide, glacially carved valleys. This is Breiðis Dollar Valley, and we'll drive up through there after dinner one day on our way to Egilsstaðir as we travel through the area. Just really spectacular scenery with some really rugged and different terrain. So lots of opportunity there. And then once we get to Egilsstaðir, we're going to have 2 nights in Egilsstaðir, and our goal will be in kind of, we usually kind of keep these a little bit flexible about where we're going to go which day based on timing and what we're trying to do. But we've got kind of the 2 main things are Mjóifjörður, which is basically a beautiful narrow inaccessible fjord for most of the year, and then we also have what I call kind of like our puffin photography focus session. So Mjóifjörður, it's got Cliff Brekkufoss, which is it's basically all these cascading waterfalls coming down. There's often even still snow on the pass when we're driving through in July. Lots of snow melt, and beautiful kind of canyons carved in there, and ancient volcanic dikes, and kind of we're getting up. It's very much higher elevation as we come over the pass, so we've got some alpine plants. But we'll photograph. We'll spend a good 2/3 of the day, half day to 2/3 of the day in Mjóifjörður, and then we are going to get ourselves into the puffin zone. And so this is an Atlantic puffin. This is an Atlantic puffin. These are Atlantic puffins. But we're going to go and visit a puffin colony. And the puffin colony, there's tens of thousands of puffins that utilize this area. And we're going to spend, it depends on how we're doing with battery life and memory card capacity, but sometimes it's upwards of 4 hours or 5 hours, kind of taking breaks in between photographing puffins, entering and exiting the burrows, flying around, sitting on land. And if we're really lucky and we get kind of the pinnacle of puffin photography, returning to the burrows with fish in their beaks. But we'll have lots and lots of time and lots of opportunities on that day to photograph the puffins. As well, the scenery around isn't half bad. It's quite beautiful. It's kind of that East Iceland. There's a lot of rhyolite in these mountains, so kind of golden colored erosion and weathering going on with or golden colored rocks eroding and weathering, creating just a completely different look. As well, when we're here, we have a Zodiac charter, so we'll be able to see some of the landscapes and some of the birds from land or from the water level versus just from land. So we'll get kind of an all-encompassing experience exploring this stunning place. And then working our way to day 10, day 9, 10. We are also going to check out Lagerflot, which is one of the largest lakes in Iceland, as well as there's a location where we can go and photograph Icelandic horses. And we look for Icelandic horses throughout the trip, but it's really nice to spend a little bit of time to kind of capture these beautiful animals, which are very much an endemic species to Iceland, because there are no new horses allowed in Iceland, and all of the horses that are here basically have genetics from about 1,000 years of Icelandic occupation of Iceland, and so they come in all different varieties of shapes, sizes, and colors, but they're really a robust horse, and don't you dare call them a pony. And yeah, so we'll go check that out in the morning, and then we're going to make our way up to the Eastern Highlands, not without a few canyon stops and scenery stops along the way. This is kind of entering into the Eastern Highlands, very arid. It's one of the driest places in all of Iceland, so different from the Western Highlands that are much more damp and have more moss and that kind of thing. The beauty here is much more subtle, and we're going to get to jump into a 4x4 Super Jeep once again to continue our exploration and hopefully catch some images like this. This is Herðubrið. It's basically what's called a table mountain. It formed underneath an ice sheet, but it's nicknamed the Queen of Iceland. It's one of the most kind of eye-catching mountains that we're likely to see. But the landscape around is just stunning, with kind of glacial rivers, and then water flowing through, and oases, and just kind of this subtle, gentle beauty that we may not see quite like this anywhere else in Iceland. Just really gorgeous, dramatic scenery. Big fan. So we'll spend some time up there, and then our last day. It's our last day on the road before we head back to Reykjavik, or as we're heading back to Reykjavik, is going to be jam packed. We are going to be visiting Dettifoss, Selfoss, Lake Mývatn, Godafoss, and Akureyri, as well as a geothermal site. So this is Dettifoss, another one of Dettifoss. This is the Namafjall geothermal area, another one of the Namafjall geothermal area. We'll take a moment to photograph geothermal power plants, which, it's a little outside of the landscape stuff, but it is super cool, especially the way that you kind of see all of the piping and venting and everything, kind of navigating this really volcanically active region. And then after that, we're going to make a quick stop at Lake Mivat, go to Foss, and then have a farewell dinner somewhere on the road to Akureyri, where we're going to catch a plane um, and fly back to Reykjavik, check in relatively late to the hotel in Reykjavik, and folks will be departing the following morning. And that is our ultimate Iceland photo expedition. It is going to be a blast with lots of wonderful images to take. So, in conclusion, folks, if you're looking to get yourself involved with the highlands, with the coast, with the puffins, with the waterfalls, with the scenery, and all that kind of stuff, this is such an amazing trip. Um, I've been working on this itinerary for 3 years. Nat has been working on this itinerary for 3 years to really dial it in and make sure we're visiting just the prime spots to get ourselves such an extraordinary, um, such an extraordinary combination of images from one of the most beautiful countries on the planet, and a landscape photographer's kind of bucket list destination as well. So thank you very much. And as a reminder, my name is Eddy Savage. If you want to find me on Facebook, Instagram, or online, this is where you can find me. Um, and I'll be posting updates from these trips as well, and sharing them on the NatHab page where I can as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Eddy, thank you so much. Now, before we dive into the question and answer session, I would like to remind everyone that if you do have a question, please feel free to submit it via the question field in your control panel. If you go to the upper right-hand corner, you'll see those three lines. You go ahead and click on that, and you'll see a drop-down menu. Click on questions and put your questions in there, and we will get to them. So, this is a 16-day trip. You said how many people are going to be with us as we go on this journey, Eddy?
Oh, sorry, one sec. I apologize. I think on that last slide I did day 16. That is my fault. It's 13 days.
13
Yeah,
days. Good. Thank you for
13 days.
clarifying that.
Yeah, 13 days. And yeah, so 13 days, and the maximum group size is 9.
9 p. Okay. Great. Thank you. And so, can you talk about the weather that we're going to experience while we're there? Is it always going to be kind of cold, or is there any warm weather while we're there?
Yeah, we're gonna get a variety. Um, Definitely. It's typically kind of on the cooler side, especially if there's a light breeze in the air. I would say Fahrenheit wise, like it's good to be prepared for about, or it's good to know like most days are probably going to be in the 50s, um, uh, reaching up into the 60s if it's like a beautiful, calm, clear, sunny day. But we are pretty far north, and we are in an island that's surrounded by the cool North Atlantic Ocean. So yeah, I would say the 50s is something to expect. When it gets very cold, we'll be looking at kind of the 40s, and very very rarely would we get close to freezing. And there have been some trips that have seen a little bit of snow, in particular when we're up in the highlands and we're at like 3,000 feet elevation. But that's not something that happens very often.
Gotcha. Thank you. So, say my partner is a photographer and I just like to take pictures with my iPhone. Is this trip going to be something that the two of us can do together? Or if I'm just coming with my iPhone, is that okay?
Yeah, that's so I think that one of the main things when it comes to a photography expedition is essentially sorry, give me a second here. The main thing when it comes to a photography expedition is knowing that it's going to be heavily photography oriented. And as far as the camera that you bring, um, the expedition leader on the trip is going to work with you like where you're at and what you've got, and help you improve your skills, and also give you the opportunities to create some fantastic images. But with that being said, um, those that join, they should be aware that most of the decisions on the trip are based around uh, making opportunity for fantastic photography.
Gotcha. Great to know. Are there going to be opportunities for macro photography on this trip?
Yeah, there could be. Yeah, I mean, it depends kind of on like each individual's interest, and I think that there's also there's a bit of a spectrum when it comes to how intense people get with macro photography. You know, we're going to have allotted times in certain locations, and sometimes we'll have 15 minutes somewhere, sometimes we'll have 1 hour somewhere, sometimes we'll have 3 hours somewhere. It just kind of depends on our goals and accomplishments for the day. So I know there's some forms of macro photography that can, are setting up on a tripod nice and low, and then doing like focus stacking and that kind of stuff. And some of those processes can take quite a long time. So it depends on kind of the level, but there will be opportunities for it, but maybe not at every single stop. And but that also depends on how much time you're spending. The I guess like something that I would focus in on macro photography and have done so in the past is on some of the really delicate kind of highland flowers and alpine plants. You'll be like walking along a black sand expanse, and then there'll just be like this tiny little sea campion poking up, or a little moss ball of with the lovely kind of like bluish purple flowers um, of the moss campion, and it's such a striking contrast. So um, yeah, there is definitely some opportunity for macro photography on this trip.
Gotcha. Thank you. So, are we going to be taking pictures long into the night since we're going to have a lot of daylight? Or
Yeah,
are the
so the oh, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. Please continue, sir.
Yeah, so the main the main goal is, we're not going to be staying up all night. We will not be um, yeah, basically, because we're a trip that we're kind of constantly moving. We're not going to be staying up till 3 or 4 in the morning. Most nights, I'd say we're usually wrapped up around 12 o'clock, um, on the later end, and it depends on the weather. Like in particular, like if we have beautiful skies and lots of light, and it's not like heavy overcast or raining or something like that, then and everything's still going well, and everyone's seeming to enjoy some of the photography, then we're likely to stay out a little bit later for that. Well, I think some of the latest nights that I had last year and in years prior were about 1 o'clock in the morning. Whereas if we're out photographing and it's like heavy overcast and it's very poor light, we're probably going to finish up the places we want it to be, but not push it, and try to bank a little bit of energy for the next day, hoping that we've got some better evening weather. But we can stay out, anywhere from, I'd say, like usually 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock until 1 in the morning, depending on how the group's energy and how our photography opportunities are looking.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. So, would you recommend using or bringing a camera harness with us? And can you recommend one that would help support a 100 to 400 millimeter lens?
Yeah, so the camera harness that I use is a cotton carrier, and that's the one I've been using now for 3 years. It is, yeah, it's spectacular. I was using it initially with, I had a 150 to 600 on it, and strapped down, it supported that plenty. And a 100 to 400, yeah, no problem. Um, but it just basically would just kind of live on my chest, and it had a strap to secure the lens so it didn't swing around. And I really like that that setup. It keeps me hands free, in particular if I need some balance or to put my hand on a rock if we're walking somewhere. And even sitting in the bus, I can just put my seatbelt on, and I don't have to like take it off and find a place for my camera. It's just attached to me all the time, and at the ready.
Gotcha. Thank you, Eddie. So, can you talk about the accommodations a little bit? Are they going to be, how good are they? Am I gonna have to worry about anything that happens there? Are they nice?
Yeah, I would say like throughout Iceland, accommodations in general are pretty nice. There's a scale, as is everywhere, but we're going to places, that are yeah, they're well run, they're clean, they've got great food, they've got uh, lovely accommodations, all that kind of stuff. It's I would say, yeah, they're up there. It's not going to be there's not going to be kind of like, through the roof experience, especially once we get further away from Reykjavik. Like our first hotel is just beautiful. It's one of the top rated hotels in the whole city, I think, and the location is ideal for us. Um, but Yeah, when we're on the road, we're going to be staying in a variety of places, but they're all going to be very comfortable, and they're all going to be exactly what we need, where we are, and for what we're doing.
So, Eddie, you said you helped build this itinerary. Is there something this year that you're really excited for the guests to come out and experience and enjoy?
I think that honing in a couple of our Highland experiences is going to be really great, as well as something that we've really tried to accomplish in the last couple of years is spending more time on the South Coast. We used to just have like one evening with or one evening at Yokosuarlan and Diamond Beach, and we'd only, for the whole trip in this such a gorgeous area, we'd only have a few hours to photograph it. And now the way that we've set it up, we're going to be tackling kind of some key experiences that we would have already done, but we'll have more time and more flexibility. The same with Vestrahorn and Estrahorn. It was, we would basically be just driving through instead of actually having dedicated time to try to photograph them. And what that led to is sometimes they'd be covered in fog, and we just wouldn't get them on that trip. But now we're going to have some more time. So I'm really excited, kind of for just more time to slow down and really watch the weather and watch the light and get into some of these really gorgeous sceneries.
Great. Thank you, Eddie. Unfortunately, that is going to be the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to hand it back to you for some closing comments.
Sure. Well, thanks again, everybody. I'm very excited to see those of you who are joining me this year on the trip, and maybe those of you who will see me next year out there. But Iceland, the land of fire and ice, is eternally breathtaking. It is one of the most beautiful kind of raw landscapes that I've had the opportunity to explore and experience, and uh, and I think that. Yeah, you're gonna, if you like photography, if you like the thought of exploring Iceland and learning about it as well, this photo expedition is going to be really special, and I hope we can all take away some fantastic images from our adventures there. So thank you again, and I'll see you out there.
Eddie, thank you so much for taking the time to present for us today. And I'd like to thank everyone who tuned in today. So if you are interested in information on how you can travel to Iceland with NatHab, please give us a call at the number on your screen, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. If you're part of a photo club and would like NatHab to speak to your members about nature and travel photography, email us at webinars@nathab.com. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.